Stand up but don't go. Stand up but don't go.
Go back.
Listen, please. Oh my goodness.
Right, we will sing this one just to give them a bit of a practice, even though we'll probably be totally out of tune. After three, 1, 2, 3. We three kings of Orient slowly.
Nativity rehearsals in the deep midwinter at St Barnabas Church in Erdington, North Birmingham. It was here 3 summers ago that I met Jim Ferry. It was July 2016, in the aftermath of the referendum.
I mean, I come from Erdington and it's like little Poland. Nothing against Poles.
I'd been dispatched to the West Midlands by the BBC's Panorama programme to hear why the Leave voters had voted Leave in such numbers around here. The air was heavy with a mixture of spite, joy, hope and despair. Jim hadn't done much agonising as to which way he was to vote. Here he is on that edition of Panorama.
To me, it was a no-brainer leaving the European Union, purely and simply from a community point of view. A sense of maybe getting the community back, stopping the influx of people who are no more interested in England than just making a few bob.
Jim, I thought was interesting because he's not from round here. He's not from Erdington in North Birmingham where he lives now. He's from Sunderland, and he was kind of a mixture of the kind of being sort of quite happy in his skin and happy with his life, but at the same time furious with absolutely everything.
Nice to see you. You're looking well. You haven't aged at all, mate. Aye, smooth talking.
So I remember he was saying, we've lost our community, there's no sense of community. And then I stood with him on the street, on Erdington High Street, outside the church where I was speaking to him, and he went, I said, what's wrong with this community? And he said, oh, there's wrong with this community. This community's fine.
The way you pronounce the name of the Polish yogurt I like, you went to me when we made the panorama, went, Yogo.
Ah, yeah.
Yogo.
Yeah, I do have the Mick thing, always with my accent, you know. I have nothing against East Europeans, or any other minority that comes into the country. I have nothing against it at all. What I'm saying is that, as in Rome, do as the Romans do. Instead of bending over backwards for all the different countries and changing our lifestyles to accommodate all the different countries, why don't we get the countries, the people who are coming, bend over backwards to become British?
It's interesting that, because if I may draw you to your liking for Polish yogurt, there's a Polish shop and you went in there for yogo. If the Poles had come and did in Rome, right, then what they should have done is started just enjoying British yogurt instead of bringing their Polish yogurt in, and then you would never have had the pleasure of your Polish yogurt. So you should be grateful for them that they've stuck to their own ways.
That's not even a serious argument.
No, it's not. But I'm not being entirely serious. But it adds to the richness of human life, hasn't it?
Of course it does, and I have nothing. Diversity and change is part of the way.
But just not too much of it is what you're saying.
Yes, when you've got too many coming in at too short a time, the culture change, the culture shock is just a little bit too much.
So Jim's views haven't changed a jot since the referendum. Next up on this trip, the town on the border between Birmingham and the Black Country. This is West Bromwich Market, where I came just after the referendum talking to the market stall holders. What was true of everyone I spoke to, invariably people from an immigrant background, everyone said they voted Leave. When I asked them why they voted Leave, everyone said it's because of immigration. And it became the fact that they were obviously from the first or second generation immigrants themselves. I stopped even noticing that anymore. It was just what everyone said. So it'd be interesting to come back here, see if anything's changed.
How you doing? You all right?
You come back again.
You look like an Asian Peaky Blinder, you doing that.
It's about the Brexit come last time.
When I paid a visit back then, there was something of a scrum at Raja's family fabric store. It was his big sales day, I remember.
These retail at £2.50, we sell it for £1 a metre. So this section is more or less like ticking along.
Today, business is quieter, giving the nattily dressed Raja, the Remainer, time to reflect.
Yeah, I didn't vote. If I did, I didn't. I was one of the ones who didn't vote.
Right.
So I think that might have made a difference.
Why didn't you vote?
I just didn't have the time.
Okay. You were busy?
I was busy, yeah.
Okay.
But I would have been Remain, to be honest.
Right.
We all live in a free society. Everyone, different communities. I'm a Remain, honest.
Okay. So the people around here, your customers buying your fabrics,
Most of them will leave voters.
See, ये Brexit da vote किता सी? Brexit ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ, vote नहीं किता. She never voted like me.
Never voted. What about this gentleman here?
एक question पूछना है, Brexit जो हुआ था, vote किया था? She doesn't know. I'm telling you, people, at the time, obviously must have been a big thing about it, but people were talking about it because obviously it was something new for everyone.
But now, do people care either
I
way?
think if it happens again, to be honest, I think it's going to be a
Remain vote.
Remain vote. I'll be totally honest with you.
Why?
Our trade, things have gone up. Everything's going up. I'm telling you. In terms of work and generally, should have been a Remain. I think if it happens again, honestly, people like me would go and vote for it. Steve satin she's buying. Satin back crepe. She's going to make like a trouser with it, more likely.
Referendum, I voted out.
Why?
Because, I mean, we work all our life here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and my parents as well, everybody.
But you were immigrants yourself?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I came about when I was 12 years old here.
Right,
with,
okay.
You know, with my family, all of them. So.
But you thought there were too many immigrants following you in?
It's not that, because we got no jobs here. That's the main thing, you know.
Yeah.
People without a job here, so many people without a job.
Okay.
And even my children say we pay taxes and people come from outside, they just sit.
Sit at home and don't work.
Don't work, they have a straight away house,
Yeah.
straight away everything, straight
Yeah.
away, you know, children credit, everything. That's why, you know.
No less concerned about immigration back then in Panorama was John Butler, a black country man born and bred like his father and grandfather before him. This is what he said then.
So what would you like to do about immigration? Just stop people coming in full stop?
Close the gates. Stop. No more now. There's enough. We want jobs back. We want to see changes. We want more jobs, more help for poorer people, not rich.
So do you think voting leave will help that?
I hope so. I think it will.
John Butler, who was living in a rented semi with his partner, 6 kids and a horse, last time I was here, and he wanted to shut the gates to all immigrants because he was extremely annoyed with lazy, hard-drinking Poles who lived on the corner. Let's see if he's softened. In fact, let's see if he's still got an horse, or an oss, as they call them round here. Over here. Christmas. Oh, son, how you doing? So I think there were 6 kids, you 2, and a
What's
horse.
the 7 then?
There's 7 kids now.
There's 7 then. We've got an extra one now.
What happened to that horse?
My mate's still got him. But he lives in Tipton, don't we?
What's that?
That's my bedroom. I've had to come down here because I've got all the bedrooms full of kids and they won't give me a 4-bedroom.
So how's your life been then?
It's been alright. I'm still on the dole, but I'm training to be a welder now.
What brought that about?
Because I know this Brexit, if I have a 9-to-5 job, it's going to be rubbish. So if I train to be a welder, it's good money. So then I can get a job anywhere.
So how do you get funding for that then?
What it is, you get to the college and they put you into a placement and then you just learn for a year. And when I get my certificates then, I can get a job.
So are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's good.
Is it nice to be doing something?
Yeah, it is, because I don't want to be on the sick for the rest of my life.
So you said on the sick, that's from the army, is it? When you
No,
did your leg in?
when I had depression and that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was 2012, I told you that I was in jail and that.
Yeah.
And I've stopped everything and I'm better now.
2.5 years since we met, just after the referendum. Did you think this is where we'd be?
No. We got sold this thing we was all happy about. And now, anything that they promised, it happened, has it? The NHS, they said they was going to improve. The industries. We had a meeting at our place saying if this carries on, our place is going to go down.
What, the factory?
Because of the Brexit, the steel's getting dearer. If we get no deal, that's going to cost them a lot more to ship this steel over. So then, they're going to have to put their prices up.
So this was all explained to you?
And they says if it gets worse and the Brexit does happen with no deal, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs.
I mean, there would be a terrible irony if you voted for Brexit, you voted to leave, and then waiting for it to happen in the meantime, you get trained, you really try and get a job, and then the very job you're trained for to get falls down.
Could be
because
took
of
out my
Brexit.
hands, yeah. If it's no deal, I probably would change my mind, because we're going to be worse off if it's no deal. A lot worse off. And it's ridiculous, I think. Really bad.
On immigration, you're quite hard line before it. It's time to close the gates. That hasn't happened, and I don't think anyone thinks it's going to happen.
No. It's a bit less, but they're never going to stop them coming through, are they?
Okay, so you think
So then the
you're
money to
worried
work off
Brexit
us,
is going to make these things worse?
they'll shut the factory down.
And you don't blame immigrants anymore like you did?
It's the government I blame. Because...
But you're not as angry with immigrants as you were?
When you, like this training now, I've got a Polish with me now, and he's a good worker, and I mean a good worker. People like that should be allowed to stay. Like an Albanian who works at my place, he's saved and saved and saved, and his kids now are in university to be a doctor. You wouldn't mind that, because them training to be something good, well, to tackle cancer and to tackle one of his kids, and that's what he's gone for, the cancer, and that's nice to hear that. And he's done that because he's worked hard. He's paid that money to do that. That's what made me change my mind.
He really has changed, you know, he's got a different house. He's a lot happier, I think. He's really tried to do something with his life. But in a way, I think, I might be wrong, but I think it was partly that referendum sort of empowered him. You know, he was thinking things can get better. And I think he's kind of realised, well, things might not, but I'm going to have to make it better somehow by going and getting a job. It's all coming back to me, just how moving and just almost confusing and disorientating the whole thing is. It's Norman Avenue there in Quinton, that's where I was born, 1967. My mum wanted to call me Igor, but my dad rightly judged that even if I was half Croatian, Igor wouldn't go down well in this part of Birmingham. Anyway, so this is Katie, who lives just round the corner from where I was born.
Katie Oliver, 33 when I first met her, had had a tough life from the beginning. She's actually from Wiltshire, but had moved to Birmingham a while ago to make a new start.
I voted leave because I don't feel like the government are putting enough back into the community, into our councils.
In the panorama,
housing
she was
situation.
positively bubbling with enthusiasm for the democratic exercise she'd just been part of.
My vote counted. I never felt that anything I've ever said would have counted. That finally we've been listened to.
For her, it was more about democracy, she said, my vote for the first time really counts, she kept saying. And I said, well, you've never been engaged with democracy before because you've never voted in a general election, which I know is different, because that's not PR, but she said, well, that's changing. That's changing. I'm going to get more involved. Aha.
Spotted you.
How you doing, mate? How you doing? Nice to see you.
My name's Faith.
Faith?
Yeah, after everything. Took a lot of it to get her here.
Katie's tiny council flat had just been flooded when I first met her. Now it's awash with toys and books for her little girl. Other than that, things are as they were. Katie's hair is still streaked purple, and dislike of politicians runs through her like a stick of rock.
I think most people are now have got that sick and tired of it that they've... What you got? That they've... We're just trying to get through our lives now. Oh, she loves her books. We're going to read this. The Little Mouse, the Red Ripe Strawberry and the Big Hungry Bear.
Ladder.
Yeah, has he got a ladder?
Why?
I had Faith because I was pregnant when we were trying to hide that I was pregnant because of all the aggro with my ex.
Yeah.
He still doesn't know anything. He hasn't been in contact, thank God.
Was he a Radio 4 listener? He might hear you talking.
No.
Okay, so he's not in the picture then?
No, I'm bringing her up all by myself and I'm quite happy. Where's he going to climb? What's he going to do?
Here.
Yeah?
I'm Robbie.
Yeah. I'm in a bit of a pickle anyway with
benefits and everything. I've had all mine taken off me because apparently I've made a miraculous recovery.
So you say you lost all your benefits, so you're managing to work at all?
Can't work. I physically can't work. I'll never be able to work again with the disabilities I've got. And because of also my mental health, because I've got borderline personality disorder. And you get it due to trauma, some form of trauma, which I had a very traumatic childhood, so that's why I've got mine.
Where do I start then? So, if you knew then what you knew now, what would you have made of it? If I said 2.5 years on, this is where we are politically, what would your view have been?
I wouldn't have wanted the vote at all, because I still want out, but the way that they've gone about it and the mess it has caused is not worth.
So if you had the vote again, I know we're into stupid hypotheticals and you're above that, but say we went back in time and you had the vote again, but knowing what you know now, would you still have voted Leave?
That's a really hard one.
Well, okay, if you hadn't have voted Leave, why would that have been?
I think because of the way, at the end of the day, nobody actually thought we were going to leave. And I don't think anybody has put anything in place ready to deal with it. And I think because nobody actually thought we were going to leave, they've made such a mess of it now that we don't know whether we're coming, going, been gone, left, right, whatever.
Now, if I said to you, what's your idea of Leave? What would your idea of leaving be?
Back to what used to be, where we had the trading, the common trade and all of common
market and everything.
Yeah, all of that.
Well,
but still being able to run our own country without somebody else telling us what we can and can't do. I don't agree with the European laws. The fact that people give convicted murderers and paedophiles and what have you human rights.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, they've lost their rights.
It's interesting. We talked a lot about democracy when I met you the first time, 2.5 years ago, and that was your main thing, if you remember. You said for the first time, you said, my vote counts.
Yeah.
Can you remember what that felt like?
It was brilliant. The fact that, that finally we got listened to, but I don't think we have been listened to.
The point was that you said to me, you're going to change now. You're going to start taking more interest in democracy. I mean, did that change? Did you vote in the next general election?
Do you know what? I got right up to the last point and I was stuck. I couldn't vote because I didn't know who to vote for because I don't believe in any of them.
Is this our welcome hamper here?
But we do that. We do one every year for something like that.
One of the rarer joys of making that panorama was coming across the finest pub name ever, The Wonder, a place in Tiverdale named, it's thought, after a famous feat of local canal engineering.
I'm a character and I'm a personality.
No less of a wonder was its landlord Ryan Morris, who had a keen interest in politics and turned the pub into a bit of a referendum debating chamber back then. Here he is on Panorama with his take on the vote.
People will tell you that immigration isn't the problem and it's the investment in local services. But if you can't get your child into a school, that will have an effect on the mentality.
Ryan's not changed at all, though he's no longer landlord here, and his personal life since the referendum has been almost as turbulent as the politics.
When Adrian first came, I was with my heavily pregnant girlfriend. When we left the pub, she split up, and she's been funny about contact, so I've had to go to court for that. I've met a woman on Facebook, and I'm engaged to a woman who now lives on the Wirral, which is the roughest place I've ever seen on earth.
So where's your baby then?
Like with his mum, I'm allowed to see him like 2 hours a week. I've got a daughter, 11, and her mum's brilliant.
Yeah.
Picks her up, drops her off. We'll have a drink every now and again. She'll phone me for a chat, and I just think that's the way that the world should be, you know. But this
what your career though, your career-wise?
Career-wise, sort of backwards a bit because I was self-employed. I'm now playing deputy manager at a pub in Wolverhampton.
On Brexit,
yes.
if we'd had a Christmas ball when I was in here 2.5 years ago, just after the vote, and we could see to where we are now, would you have been surprised?
Yes.
Why?
Like, in the position that we're in, I don't believe that it'll happen now. Okay. I've always said it will, and people have said, oh no, they'll find a loophole or a way around it. But that's starting to come into fruition.
You don't think Brexit will happen now?
No, we're going to go to a referendum again. It won't be a referendum on stay or leave the EU, we've had that one. it'll be like, you know, the people's choice. Do we go with the current deal? Do we go with no deal? Do we remain? Me personally, if it went to another referendum and then the masses voted to remain, I can't see the argument there. I can't.
What do you mean? You think you'd go along with that?
Yeah, right, my choice is to leave. Would I then take that away from anybody else? Because there's people turning 18 now who couldn't vote in the last one. So this once in a lifetime vote doesn't sit well with me, because you can't say, oh, we've already done it now, because if the will of a nation has changed, then so should how we go with it. I'd be disappointed, but I think democratically, I can't understand the argument against a second vote.
That's interesting. So you're a strong leaver, but not
Yeah,
against...
because if we don't have another vote, I'll get what I want. But that's not democracy, is it?
You never voted before you
That's true.
confessed to me. And have you become more engaged in politics since? Did you vote in the last general election that followed the referendum?
I did, as it goes, yeah. I've always been engaged. I took an A-level in government politics. I took the subjects I wanted.
So why hadn't you voted then? You're obviously interested.
Because I look at it like almost... I'll watch Question Time the same way that some people watch Coronation Street.
Yeah.
For me, it's entertainment. My sort of political beliefs, they don't fit anywhere into any of these boxes.
So who did you vote for then in the general election?
That'd be telling, but I voted Labour. I felt more engaged with the system, partly because of Brexit, you know, and you popped down and graced us with your presence, and I felt like I'm almost sort of connected.
So Ryan's new connection with our political system has survived the last 2.5 years, which for me is a positive, because if people as bright and passionate as him aren't engaged, something's going very wrong. The other licensed premises I took the programme to was in Hockley.
For the panorama we made, we were looking for a pub to bring some remainers to, and I just chose a pub I go to before I go and see West Brom play. It's called the Black Eagle. I'm sentimentally attached to it because my dad was sort of raised just round the corner from here, and this was his local, and my granddad's local as well.
I sincerely think it's a massive protest vote. I think it's a huge protest vote.
Those communities that were suffering...
Yeah, we interviewed so many people, and the Remainers generally were either purveyors of Project Fear or had bought into Project Fear. The general consensus was that we were all going to hell in a handcart.
There'll be a weakened economy, country will split up, we'll be disunited.
So it'll be interesting to see to what extent we're in hell now, as far as I can see.
Renewing acquaintance with me today are Barbara Partridge, a teacher, and her friend Steve Doswell, a businessman.
So Steve, what do you know now you didn't know 2.5 years ago?
I think I understand the reasons why so many people voted to leave more than I did at the time. When the vote result came through, you know, like so many people who'd voted Remain, was probably in a state of shock for a period of time, and very angry as well.
You just thought the Leave voters were all stupid, thick or racist?
I don't think I felt that, but I did feel that they had been misled, is probably what I felt. But during the time from then till now, I thought a lot about what was their motivation to vote to leave, and I think the original Panorama programme, you know, brought out that sort of range of different motivations, and it's made me think a bit about my assumptions about people. I mean, if there's one good thing that's come out of this whole scenario for me, it's that it's given me pause to think, and I think it's given a lot of people pause to think about, you know, who we are as a country and the different people who live in this country, and the assumptions we make about the lives that we live and how different the lives that other people live as well. And I think that in itself is not a bad thing.
That's fascinating that you're finding a positive in all this.
Well, I think it's probably almost like a necessary stage in a process of trying to come to terms with the reality of what seems to be happening at the moment.
How do I feel now? I lost a mixture of emotions. I am furious with the architects of Brexit who set this up and then walked away. Cameron, who triggered it, and Boris Johnson, who jumped on it. So I'm angry about that. My day job is an early years teacher. I'm not a politician. They are. Why is there this confusion and the uncertainty? Just uncertainty wipes money off markets, which affects the lives of ordinary people. Just that fact alone.
So, what mistakes have been made?
I think there's been a missed opportunity post-general election whereby there could have been cross-party talks, there could have been work through committees, parliament functions. Yeah, it feels chaotic. It feels chaotic. It feels polarised, it feels chaotic. I used to volunteer in a food bank, and our clients were people on the edge, people just trying to survive. If we leave and food prices rise slightly, not even substantially, that will make a massive difference to their lives. There'll be more people in that position. It's heart-wrenching and it's sickening at the same time.
So when you hear people say, look, there might be a short-term hit if we have a hard Brexit, but you're saying there's people who won't survive that short-term.
There's no cushion, people with no cushion.
So what do you want to happen now? I mean, realistically, what do you want to happen?
I'm a little bit bewildered, a little bit confused. I listen to podcasts, I hear different views. I was listening to something about the Norway option last night. I think I've lost faith in politicians now as well.
And then over the bridge and turn left, you come to a set of traffic, come down that road, and you come to a set of little set of traffic lights over the whole
Hazel and
bridge.
Barry Priest are in their 60s. This is a second marriage for both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, OK.
And you
This is what she said on Panorama.
At the end of the day, that river of all what's wrong, what's been forced on the British people by the EU or whatever you want to call them, these bodies are saying you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And all that river has flowed into one big, massive sea of anger.
She seemed to think, like a lot of people, the whole country was going to pot. Let's see if she's cheered up at all. Hey Hazel, how you doing?
Hello, Adrian. How are you?
Long time no see.
Give us a kiss.
How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Since we saw you last, we've bought this boat.
Fantastic.
They were very much novices in the business of canal boating when I first met them.
That's Emily.
Since we last met, they've sold their flat and they're now living permanently on their new narrowboat.
I must say you were bickering a little bit last time in some of your manoeuvring. Yeah. I was a bit worried whether you weren't going to fall out, but you've been all right with
It's fine.
That's us. Yeah.
To be perfectly truthful, when you're in a situation like that, you've got to work as a team.
Yeah.
I mean, I drive the boat as well.
So it's worked for you, it's brought you closer together, working as a team and everything. I'm trying to find a Brexit analogy. Remainers would argue that the UK and the European Union worked as a team. You know, we were better together.
I'm very much a simpleton. I am. I haven't got the slightest interest in politics.
Yeah.
I've not got the slightest interest on how the country works. I only know for me and the people around me.
Well, that's changed, because you never said to me you were a simpleton before, and you never said you had no interest in how the country works. You did. You were passionate. You said the country wasn't working properly and you thought the Leave vote might change that.
I honestly and truthfully felt the main problem, the main area which is not being eased or
addressed,
sorted, was the immigration.
If there was a vote again now, which way would you vote? If there was a straight Leave or Remain again, what would you do now?
Abstain.
That's interesting. And
truthful.
Looking back now, would you rather you just hadn't bothered with the referendum at all the first time round, or do you think it was a worthwhile exercise?
I honestly and truthfully hadn't given it much thought. I thought, oh, well, we've been in, so why not try voting to come out? See what happens if we come out.
Yeah, but you do now accept it's more complicated than that. You can't.
Yeah.
You just can't go in and out and see what works best for you.
No. And I mean,
do you wish we just hadn't had the referendum?
let's just say it's caused a lot of confusion and a lot of ill feeling. It's stirred up the emotions of the British people, and all they're concerned about is immigration. But that's what happened when they started off with all this Brexit idea.
Yeah.
You only need the strike of the match to light a fire.
So they should never have struck the referendum match in
They
the first
struck
place.
that referendum match by saying, we will control immigration. And all these people are saying, great, stop the immigrants. We might be able to get jobs, we might be able to move house, we might be able to buy a
So
property.
when those people realise that that's actually
Not happening.
not going to happen, what then?
I don't know.
What about the impact on your family? Say, I know your daughter works at Land Rover and has done well for herself. Well, I don't think anyone disagrees that there's potentially a big risk to the automotive industry in this country.
I can't regret it because what I did in the beginning I thought was right. So...
Did you realise it might affect your daughter's work at the time?
No. No, I didn't. I honestly and truthfully didn't.
She almost, but not quite, says that she'd change her vote. She'd say she'd abstain, which I think is interesting, and she's honest enough to admit that she didn't think it would turn out like this. It's fascinating to see, you know, people just fed up with politicians. For once they thought the politicians would have to listen to them, and then they just see them tearing strips off each other again, creating a lot of heat and not much light. I think she's trying to understand, and she thinks the only one who doesn't. But I work in this business. I watch hours of it and understand about 10% of it.
Back to the sound of hymns of hope in St Barnabas in Erdington, with dyed-in-the-wool lever Jim Ferry reflecting on his life gone by.
I've done all sorts, from being a carer to having my own courier business to being a deck officer in the Merchant Navy.
How long were you there in it for?
About 8 years.
Really?
Yeah. It was wild.
And what was your favourite place to go?
Oh, it had to be Santos in Brazil. Yeah, fantastic. I used to have bright ginger hair, and the women used to fight over me in Brazil. Yeah, because they'd never seen a guy with ginger hair before.
No wonder you get fed up round here. You got no women trading after you. Get your ginger wig back on and go to Santos. Did you think it would be this complicated, leaving?
Well, it's a deliberate policy, isn't it? First of all...
Deliberate by who?
By both May and by Europe. May never wanted to leave. She was totally anti-Brexit. So it's having May organise Brexit is like asking a Mormon to organise a booze-up. Really, it's just not on.
So you're saying she's deliberately messing it up then? So she's not unhappy that she's messing it up?
No, she's not unhappy at all. It's part of her policy.
Well, she looks unhappy to me when I see her, but you think this is fine as far as she's concerned?
They pull all the strings, and May goes along with it.
The church we're in seems to be at the heart of community life in this area, and as Jim and I chat, a steady stream of people arrive for a rehabilitation session with Headway, the Brain Injury Association. Ian Shingler is Headway's coordinator here.
So you voted leave?
I voted to leave. I thought it was a good idea at the time, but now I think it was probably one of the worst things I ever made a decision to do.
Why?
I don't think we're getting anywhere. We have talked about this with the clients as well, quite a lot. And we just don't know what actually Brexit is, where we're going with it, how it's going to affect us.
Don't take this the wrong way, but it says something about how everybody's talking about Brexit, if even in your brain injury help group you're discussing Brexit there. Can't you do something a bit nicer, a bit more relaxing? Surely they've been through enough without banging on about Brexit.
We do, but I tend to ask the clients because the normality, it gives them that sense of worth, that sense of normality, and we're talking about current things. That's how I want to get my clients involved. If anybody gets too political, I tend to stop.
Yeah, we're just going to
Yes, Dean.
There's still not a lot of clarification of, you know, what Brexit is, how it works. Everybody asks the question every day, should we join, should we leave?
As an immigrant, I feel that this project was done wrong. My feeling during that referendum, it came out as very anti-immigrant, and I was scared for myself and for my children.
The original Panorama programme wasn't a scientific study based on a strictly representative sample, and neither is this. However, it does seem to me that most people are rather more balanced in their views than the politicians purporting to argue so vehemently on their behalf. I assumed, even feared, that the public's position would have hardened, but if anything, the opposite seems to be true of those on both sides of the debate.
Like an Albanian who works at my place, he's saved and saved and saved, and his kids now are in university to be a doctor. That's what made me change my mind.
If the will of the nation has changed, then I can't understand the argument against a second vote. Because if we don't have another vote, I'll get what I want. But that's not democracy, is it?
Nobody actually thought we were going to leave. And I think they've made such a mess of it now that we don't know whether we're coming, going, been gone, left, right, whatever.
I still have the same opinion. I still believe in Britain as an independent country. We're being panicked. Well, cause enough fear to get them to want to have a second referendum so that we stay.
Well, Jim Ferried might be sticking to his 6-inch guns. The others seem to have taken long looks at themselves, each other and the country, and oddly, now understand more about their friends, enemies and strangers than they did before.
It's given me pause to think, and I think it's given a lot of people pause to think about, who we are as a country and the different people who live in this country and the assumptions we make about the lives that we live and how different the lives that other people live as well.